Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. I welcome you all for one-on-one Gupshup online session 6, organized by ISOLA Gujarat and ISOLA Rajasthan chapter. I am architect Himanshu Taneja. I would be hosting this session today. Before going ahead, I would request everyone to please mute your audio. Uh, Please turn off your videos for better clarity. We would be heading to question and answer session after the presentation. You can write your questions in the chat box after the end of this presentation, and whenever it is asked for after the presentation. So today we have architect Ankur Jajpuria from Jaipur, who would be presenting on interactive landscape.
Himanshu, I can't hear you.
Yeah, so shall I repeat things again?
Just a bit, yeah.
Yeah, so welcome everyone for one-on-one Gupshup online session 6, organized by ISOLA Gujarat and ISOLA Rajasthan chapter. And I am architect Himanshu Taneja. I would be hosting this session today, and I would request everyone to please mute your audios, to turn off your videos for better clarity. We would be heading to question and answer session after the presentation, and you can write your questions in the chat box after the end of presentation whenever it is asked for. So today we have architect Ankur Jajpuria from Jaipur, who would be presenting on interactive landscapes. Welcome, Ankur.
Thanks, Himanshu.
So Ankur has done Bachelor in Architecture from Iojan School of Architecture in year 2010. He has also done Masters in Landscape Architecture from CEP University Ahmedabad in year 2014. He leads a landscape architecture consultancy firm called Studio Aspire. His firm has won many recognitions like Bronze Medal Award in Japan International Garden Show in 2016. They have also won Innovative Creation in Johannesburg International Garden Show in year 2019. So Ankur, I would request you to tell us more about your firm.
Yes, thanks for the intro, Himanshu. After my post-graduation, I worked for 2 years in Delhi, and in 2016, I started this firm in Jaipur. So as an office, we are a very small team, and we try to experiment, and we try to try out different things. So I guess what we look forward to in future is more variety and more different kind of projects as a portfolio. Thanks.
Okay. Best of luck for your future projects. So I would repeat again to mute your audios, to turn off your videos for better clarity. Question and answers session will be organized after the presentation. And so I would request Ankur to share his presentation, and let's learn something from him. Over to you, Ankur.
Thanks, Himanshu. Is it visible, the window?
Yeah, it's loading. Yes, it is visible now.
Am I audible clearly?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, so I will be starting now.
Okay, best of luck.
Thank you. So a very good evening to all. I thank ISOLA Gujarat chapter and ISOLA Rajasthan chapter for organizing such an event. And as many of you have been associated with these sessions in the past, this has been a very interesting series. And so now adding to that, today I'm going to speak on interactive landscapes. So if I talk about a general landscape design process, I feel there are many kinds of physical and many kinds of factors that affect that process. If you want to list down They can be context, you know, the where it is located, the project. You're talking about the climate, you're talking about the type of users you're targeting, you're talking about the physical features on site, you're talking about the constraints or the restrictions for the project, you're talking about the build, which is the main architecture. But what I think is eventually it's the users which are finally interacting that with spaces, and the kind of interaction what the users have, they can be of various types. They can be at a spiritual level, they can be in a more physical level, they can be more sensory, they can be more meditative, they can be bringing joy. I mean, the spaces can be bringing joy and happiness, sort of the celebratory spaces. So in all, I mean, what I think is the functionality, the how the space is going to function is defined by the kind of conversations it has with its occupants or the users, and the space usage parameter, how it will be used, the parameters of usage for any space. I think it alters and affects the overall design process, and also tying the whole process together in different of these factors. So today I'm going to focus on about the interactive landscape, which is about the user-based design concepts in a different type of projects and what are their outcomes. So it's sort of, you can take it like how you can create a balance between what the design wants, I mean, what you want as a designer, and what is the need of the project, what the project demands. So we're going to talk about 4 different vignettes, or you can say 4 different snapshots of projects that being used by different kinds of visitors and users. So, I mean, if I speak about the first 2, they are kind of very special. They have a very different usage. The third and the fourth are more side of hospitality and a public project. So moving on to the first project, this was as a freelance designer. This was my first project, and to be thankful, it was a very unique one. I haven't heard about this format ever in my life, and this was a kind of very interesting project for me. So this was an international garden and flower show which was happening, which had been organized in Japan, in southern Japan near Nagasaki. And the 2015 theme, they had organized a competition. It was the residential garden module. So the overall format was you had to design a garden which is relating to your own home country. So that was the kind of the biggest challenge. Then the second challenge was the size of the garden. It was a backyard residential garden, and the size was 5 meters by 5 meters, that is 25 square meters. So so talking about some of the facts for the garden, the competition, it was a competition entry. They had a very strict construction window. They had to construct within 3 weeks, which was, and I could not visit the site before that. And the competition was in a format that the user will be visiting your garden, and the organizer will be having 15 minutes to sell the design. So you have overall 15 minutes to impress the client. Again, we had we were competing with 17 other international designs. So the innovation and the unique image was a mandatory one. The usage of the space was a priority, and the biggest challenge what I felt was we were coordinating with the translator. So we were telling him something and he was telling something to the Japanese guys. So there was a lot of chance to get gaps in between. Talking about the campus where the competition was being held, this was the Huitenbosch. It was a Dutch themed park, and the palace was the Dutch themed palace. And the front gardens were this were the front gardens, and they were being used for display of all the gardens. The backyard was sort of their ornamental garden, which was not accessible to public. So right now, when we started the design process, we had no clue. We didn't knew what kind of people visited the place. We didn't knew what was but yeah, something we went ahead with is some set of words that we wanted to keep in our mind, where it had to be eye catching. It had to create that impact once you see that thing. And for selling it, you had 15 minutes, but I guess to enter the garden you need just a second. So that second, how you create that second interesting, that would have played a very important role. And then again, it was a residential garden, so kind of the comfort and the feeling that you want to create. And also we remember that we are creating for, not for Indians, not for our home country, but we are creating a garden for people who will be visiting from different countries. So we thought of, the first question that came to our mind was, how can we define our country, India, in 25 square meters? That was the major question. And we went through a different options, and went through different ideas. And the main concept we thought was, let's narrow down to a couple of words which will define the whole theme of the garden. So if you see this concept sketch, so what we started off was the simple space. We didn't wanted, I mean, much of complicated design. We wanted something to play with the elements. We wanted the pattern planting to the warmth, to display the warmth of our Indian culture. The vibrance of our Indian culture is very colorful, very vibrant. So the planting should reflect that. If you're talking about the culture of our culture, so sitting on the ground, and have we are sitting on the ground, sort of, it should be, we as Indians are more socially interactive, so the space should involve, more space, more room for interactions. So, but again, we had a question that how you will going to attract the visitor. So we need kind of one focal point in the middle, and that can be a water feature, because people relate in a better way to a water feature. So we thought, what image this focal element can have. Since we're talking about, we were representing India, so I thought, why we can't use like a peacock feather and convert into a water feature, which kind of ties down the whole design and then gives you a central point to look into. Moving on to the actual plan we made. So you can see that this was being we imagined that this was a house, and this was the entry from the house, and this was the entry from outside, sort of the backyard entry. And then you see there's a pathway which gives you a chance to interact with the space, to see around. You can see the layered and colorful planting, which kind of mimics the warmth and vibrance of the Indian culture. You can see this central water feature designed through a peacock through a feather, and this plaza where you can sit on the ground and enjoy the space. Some kind of visuals that we created, that how this thing will look in 3D. So it was a very tight space, 5 meter by 5 meter, and we wanted to do a lot of things. But I think if you look at the total scale, I think we managed some breathing space for the visitors. So moving over to the thing, we also oriented, we actually selected a spot in the plaza, the garden palace, so that it was facing the northeast side, which was the Indian auspicious direction. And if you talk about the most important part, the planting thing, we were given a set of plants which was available in Japan, and they were sort of 800 to 1,000 plants. They gave us the list, and out of that list we sort of selected things which were common to India and which were growing at that time of the year. We are talking about October, so it's kind of a retreating summer for them. So most of the plants were common to Indian species. So finally, we went there after the construction. I couldn't be there for the actual site progress. So, but they completed the whole garden in 2 weeks, which was great. I mean, you're looking at different construction things. So this was the whole setup in front of the palace, and this was the sort of the entrance. And I think seeing this image was the kind of a Swadesh moment for me, when you see your name and you see your flag, and it was very interesting. So you kind of relate the whole thing. And if you see the overall image, the water feature kind of ties down the whole space. I can see the planting which is flowing around. Another angle, when you see the plaza, which is kind of elevated from the ground. So you're not actually sitting on the ground, but you're a little bit elevated from the ground, so that you're sitting in a comfortable thing, and then you can see the comfort and the coziness in the space. Some element that talk about the layered planting, you can see we kind of use some kind of small elements like a traditional lantern, which kind of emphasized on the arts and crafts culture, very rich heritage that we have in India. And we also use like a nighttime lighting to see how this space can see and feel in nighttime. So then we were invited again the year after in 2016 to exhibit for, I think it was more difficult than the last one. It was a balcony garden. The area was 6 square meters. Their idea was, we are moving, we were already living in a very urban sort of environment, and they wanted to explore how those small tight spaces can be explored further. And the challenges that we faced in that thing was they gave us a 1 week construction window, but I mean we had to be done with the construction in 1 week. So obviously we can't do a very heavy construction in the garden. So then this module was supposed to be sold to the visitors, so it has to be a real executable garden. So again, we got on our papers and we thought that what should be done. And again, we had one question that hit us hard was what sort of magic can you do in 6 square meters? That is, I mean, you can say 3 meters by 2 meters, and you're talking about a balcony. So it can either you can design it into a very usable way, or either you can design it in sort of a utility way that you can keep your storage. Or so we took a concept of, like a cocoon, like a very green cave. So you are sitting in that cave, and you're isolated from the rest of the world. So this was an urban setting, and what you wanted to create like a very small green pocket that can isolate you from the rest of the world. So I guess you can see how we sort of frame the whole plan, giving a sort of a very tight space, and you're surrounded by planting. So whenever you see around, you have these very colorful, lush and pattern planting around. We gave them like a chance to habitate the place, how you can use that space. So you can put like a small coffee table, you can put like a reading lamp, and how you're looking out of the window, and then what you can see is actually framed by planting. So again, the plant list was provided to us, and this time we couldn't we couldn't find many plants which were of the Indian family, but yeah, we focused on the color palette basically. So thankfully we were coordinated with the site people, and then we formalized on some kind of planting palette. So if you see the images, they sort of kind of made a frame of the whole place, and then you see how when it was actually built. So we realized that it's a very tight space. You can see the chair and you can see the table, but I think the kind of setting that we wanted, I think it was working in kind of, you can see how this colorful green wall creeps up to the kinds of activates the whole corner. If you see the backdrop, it's more secluded, and then the plants take over in some time. And how in night time you can use it as space to read a book or have evening tea, and how these plants also liven up the whole field. So third project that we are I'm going to explain is about a jungle retreat. It's a hospitality project in Tehla. It's near to Jaipur. It's about 100 kilometers from here. And I would like to thank Anodya Architects, architect Keerti Singh and architect Manish Mewara, to give us an opportunity to associate with them for this project. So talking about the whole context of the place, it's near to Sariska National Park. It's actually right outside the boundary of Sariska. So obviously the project would like to have a wild touch, a very native biodiversity thing. We had very challenging topographical site. We had rocky features on site. We had undulations. We had lots of up and down mounds and all. And then third thing we had was the architecture, which was a more kind of English county hunting lodge style thing. So already the setting was there for us to, and we just wanted to do something like an intervention in between, which would not feel out of the place. So talking about again the kind, imagine the place, how it will be used. So we were thinking about some of the terms, that how being myself, I'm living in a city. So how I want that space to be. I want that space to be, like my escapist thing, and I want to escape for the weekend for 2 days or 3 days, and I want to experience the countryside. I will go to that place. If I am looking for a very natural wildlife connect, I will go to that place. So if I mean the sort of all these sort of words which would came into our mind, and how these are going to now affect the design process. So when we started off with the project, this was the actual Google location. So you can see it had a rock on the northeast portion, and there was a very dominant storm water flow channel which was going through the site. And what we realized was, of course, we have the space usage thing. Of course, we have to take care of the users, and of course, we have a design to do. But there has to be a lot. The substantial component was the site development. We had to do a lot of things along the design process to make the site habitable for our design. So the first constraint we had on the site was the stormwater flow, which you can see from the Google image. So there, in the times of monsoon, the water was coming through from at a great speed from these area, which was elevated, and it was kind of going through our building location. So and second thing, what we had was the site was already planted with 400 to 500 trees. The green dots on this plan you can see are the existing trees, and the orange ones are what we planted later on to create that wild theme for the whole project. So when we started, these are the existing pictures what we had. So you can see the site was already having that kind of wild touch, and it already had kind of those enclosures which you can imagine form those spaces what we were looking for. So we started off with the first major site development thing, which was we had to reroute the whole stormwater flow because we didn't want the water to bother us more. So what we did was we sort of the whole path of the stormwater, which was the old water flow was this. So we divided the whole water flow into 3 reservoirs. We break down the stormwater flow, and what happened was that when the water was coming, and we tested out before actually opening the property, we tested out it in the first monsoon. So the water was coming on to the site from 2 different points. So what we did, we break off the boundary, we brought the water in, we sort of made those percolation and recharge pit chambers in different positions, so that the water that comes doesn't go, we can use it for recharge, and we can increase the water table for the site. This particular water feature, the water reservoir 2, was we imagined this thing to be more of a visual ambient feature. So we made it in a more non-percolating feature, so that it can create that ambience, it can create that wild pond look for us. You can see the water reservoir, the water reservoir, the non-percolating one, how we have these inlet points and the outlet point which feed these recharge basins. This is the picture of this recharge basin. So whenever this fills up, the water goes to the recharge basin and subsequently goes to the other one before finally going out of the site. So then when we figure out with this, so simultaneously we were doing our design process, how you will imagine this project. So what we thought was, it's already surrounded by Sariska. It's sort of surrounded by the wildlife thing. So why not let's give the users sort of a journey to remember. When they come inside, they can park their vehicles, and they can a sort of electrical vehicle can take you to this whole wild plantation and arrive you to the central building, which can now if you see the overall concept, it was that we were having like the main building blocks were arranged in form to enclose sort of a formal garden between, and the rest of it, the outside becomes more informal. So we have a formality in between and informality, a wild concept. So this was the final plan, and when you can see the red line, this was a very dominant pathway that we planned. So you come inside, you have a sort of a tucked in gateway, you park your vehicle, you have your cart pick up your luggage, and then you sort of drive around between the trees, giving a feel of the whole wildlife thing. And then you going through different twisting winding pathway, you arrive at this arrival plaza, which is sort of the reception. Now, even the building were placed, the architecture were designed in such a way that it encouraged a sort of this pathway pattern which could happen. So if you see the overall layout, the eastern lawn, the eastern garden sort of formed a very recreational outdoor activity thing. giving us the major pond, and you can have you can have various activities along the pond. You can have various games in this lawn. You can have a small play area for the kids, and sort of now this the southern pathway more becomes densely sort of a orchard walk, when you can, these were all the fruit trees which are planted at this edge, so you can have organic fruits in this area. So I mean, if you're talking about the visitor thing, we are talking about various different experiences. I mean, if I'm talking right now, the project is open and they are having different kind of spaces along these small pockets. You're having these all kind of very small secret gardens. You have a hammocks lying in them. You have the rock seating between them, and so that would make the very natural touch to it. Coming out to the central garden, the central thing was more formal. It contained the pathway which was taken to your cottage, and we obviously needed some kind of activities for the guests. So the pool, we had a pool placed in the center, giving you the all-round view of the cottages, and this central lawn which is used for different performances, breakfasts and winter lunches, etc. Talking about the eastern part, this is the most interactive zone. This is the most habitable, active zone. So you can see some details happening for the pond, and we made this pond in a very sequential manner, excavating it, putting a liner, lining it by bricks, and then giving it a soil cover to make it a non-percolating thing. Some images of the pond that these are the current images. You can see how it has shaped up, and how the thing, it's even the planting on the edges is not very dense. It's very wild, that you can have the small climb like you find it in the forest. Then you sort of happen with this eastern lawn. So this becomes the main active space. You can have these rocks were actually excavated from the site. So when the buildings were being made, we found these were put out, retrieved from the ground. So we kind of use them in the landscape as random seatings. So you can see how the lawn is being used. You can see the activity. They have put a badminton net. So it's sort of, children are playing around and people are sitting on the benches. They're having winter brunches in this place, which is by the pond side, you can have these lunches. You can have the brunch. So also in terms of material, we wanted the project to be on a very natural side. So we tried to use minimal of stone, minimal of concrete. So even these winding paths, we can say we made it in gravel and ram dirt. So we just made these sort of local stone retaining walls, and then you can see we edged it up with stone putties on the edges. So this is the final look. This is the final thing of the pathway. We are not going to top it up with anything. So you are now looking at like sort of a very natural path, and you can see what kind of winding and twisting pathway effect it has on the whole project. There's sort of very small secret garden lawn pockets you can see happening along the pathway. So, I mean, if you see the whole project, all these pockets are, the visitors are free to roam around. They are encouraged to spend time outdoors. And I guess that is what eventually we want from a project. So when we move to the more formal part of the project, this is the central lawn, which we have the raised pool. You overlooks to the main block. This is the main block, so now we're sitting here and we're facing this way. You can see the pool deck. It's more open. It's more interacting with you have a very nice view of the northeastern hills that you have from the pool. This is when you come out from the main block, you arrive at this plaza, and this is the central lawn, which is divided into two kind of platforms, which are being used for various performance areas and all. So this is from the roof of the main block. You can see the pool. You can see the back cottage. So, I mean, in terms of activity, this central lawn is also used extensively in winter. The hotel, they lays out its table for various activities, and even in the night time they can use for bonfires. So talking about little smaller details and little elements that we tried to use in the project. So we sort of didn't wanted to use plastered walls and RCC walls, and so we got this local stone and made all these retaining walls on sort of those exposed stone masonry that is, and you find excellent craftsmen for that in Sariska nearby areas. The rocks which were excavated from the site were used for signages. So if you see this is the Sariska man, the main signage of the property is like this. And also the signages are being used for in front of the cottages. So all the cottages are being, named with different tree types. So these rocks are being used for that. And even this particular project is very important about the involvement of the client. So client was very excited, and they were very involved with the project. So they also started giving suggestions. And they were giving, those were very important. So, you can, for example, these small pocket, the empty pocket, they sort of brought these lanterns in, and they wanted that, see, Ankur, we don't want any external lighting for the project. So we are going to give these lanterns to the visitors, and they can, hold these lanterns, give you the villager kind of feel, and then they can roam around the property. So, and they got this thing painted by the local artists. So these kind of things, I guess, they gave this project a very good touch. Now, moving on to the fourth project, this is, if I compare the rest of the project, this is a very extensively used project. The main USP of this project is we are imagining humongous amount of people will be visiting this place. So this is in Sri Rani Bhattiani Temple Complex. It's in Jasol. It's almost 2 hours drive from Barmer. The client is the temple trust, is the Sri Rani Bhattiani Mandir Sansthan. I again would like to thank Anodya Architects for giving us this opportunity. So the total site area is 11 acres, which combines the temple complex, the residential complex which is planned, and the parking area. So it has been going on since 2015, and we are looking to inaugurate in sometime next year. So talking about some of the history of the temple. So Jasol Mataji temple is a very ancient temple, and it has a huge fan following in the Western Rajasthan. So mostly the village, the traditional community, the village people, they have this following, and we look at, they have this 5-6 fairs all around the year. So we imagine the footfall to be it escalates from 10,000 to almost 2 lakhs per day. Talking about the context of this project, it's based in Western Rajasthan. So we are looking at high temperature variation. We are looking at very scanty rainfall. We are looking at occasional dust storms and very bad soil quality. The second most important context was the amount of people the campus is catering to. Right now, if you see, it handles almost 10 to 15,000 visitors per day. And we are talking about the main melas of the year. They reach up to 2 to 2.5 lakh people per day. That happens for 5 to 6 people a year, 5 to 6 times a year, sorry. So they're mostly village people, and the kind of handling, the kind of management becomes another task. Another context that we have is the very robust and impressive architecture. So it's designed in Rajasthani heritage architecture, and it sort of has a very dominant presence on the project. And it has a very strong image, which is also related to the local visitors, because they relate to this language, and I guess they love this style. If you look at the whole campus, you can see on the on the left hand side, we have the temple complex. That is the one part. We have the residential new campus. That is, so earlier we only had this campus, and now we developed in another campus, which was the residential one. If you see the back, we have the parking area, which is in the green. So talking about the main circulation that happens right now with the blue line. So people, this is the village, and the town is on this side and southern side, and you come to this blue line, you drive through, and you park your vehicle in this Maidan, which is right now we're going to design into a parking. And then you go, the red line is the current usage. So you go there, park your vehicle, come wash your hands, keep your shoes and chappals in these road, and then you enter the temple complex. So if you see this small stretch of road becomes a very jam-packed, it becomes the main artery, which can't be, and in terms of melas, it's a very jam-packed thing. The green line, what was the intended circulation, the new entry that we are planning now. So some existing pictures of the temple area, you can see this is the main temple. The kind of lanes we have right now, which are shaded, which is a very important component, because we're looking at temperature range of 45 to 48 degrees in summer. You can see all the shaded things, the open madans. This was the residential complex, which when we were brought on board. So the buildings are partially complete that time, and we can see the central area is kind of the main block of the complex. So again, talking about we sat down and we sort of listed this thing, that how you want this campus to be, how you're looking at this campus. Okay, at one point of time you talk about a very green campus, you talk about landscape design elements, you talk about lush green plantation, you talk about water features, you talk about many things, and then we have a very different thing that okay, the main thing that we are going to follow and the main thing is going to affect everything is this thing, the large footfall of the project. And of course there are many things which are associated with this amount of people. You can say the movement is a constraint, the amount of gathering, the gathering spaces that we need to provide for the congregation facilities, the hygiene and the facility, the toilets and the water drinking point that needs to happen. They are, the visitors, if they come, they are going to offer prasad, and that is a big thing, because when you come in this number, the amount of prasad and amount of things which are collected is also much in huge amount. And then you have a very important thing, that is the connection with the goddess herself. So that becomes a very important thing. You don't want to design something which just disconnects you from your goddess. So that kind of thing we thought about, and then we started looking at, we had this kind of very design principles listed down and all these things, and then we move over to a sort of a master plan. We figured out a way to deal with the temple complex, which was the most the complicated circulation that we had. We wanted to take this axis which was already implied by the building placement, and then we had you can see the red area, which were the prominent circulation areas. We didn't right now we have the temporary shades there, but eventually we want them to be shaded by trees. So we have this concept of sort of placing all these lanes in between the trees. So you can see how the axis plays a very important role, and we wanted to keep this axis free because the temple needs to have a visual connection all throughout the campus. So we can see how we have a particular order. People go through this thing. The first temple, they visited the main Mataji temple. They exit this thing. They offer the main prasad is offered here. Then they go to the Yagyashala, which sometimes they sit, sometimes they don't. Then they move on to the third temple, which is we're sort of just located behind, but we can't give a direct circulation because we wanted to give sort of circulation for the prasad thing. Then you have a pathway that goes with exits of changing rooms and toilets in between. And then finally we have these two temples, and after visiting them, you exit from this gate. So this is the event, the strategy that we have planned. It's not started constructing yet, but we are going to work out on this thing. Moving on to the new residential campus, which we were working on since 2016. And this is being constructed in a lot more extent now. So you can see how this central axis becomes prominent, and this central area, the sort of the courtyard which is formed by the buildings, become the most usable central area. And when you see these pathways, they are big pathways, 6-meter wide pathways, and they sort of take you from, if you suppose you're entering from this part, you have your registration, you're allotted your rooms in these complexes, and then you access these things. You access all these things, and there is a sort of, if you see the whole area, the central area becomes the most usage thing, the most used area. You have the mess and the dormitory block. So people residing here also will visit that place. People who are visiting the temple also visit this place to have meals. So and what they will do after having meal, and what they will do different times of the day, this is all depends on how this area behaves. So we sort of designed this area into we needed a one big lawn for the Jagratas and Jagrans which is happening. The sort of main avenue 6 meter road which is happening also acts like a seating space, because now we are talking about people, we're talking about large number of people, so you can't define, you can't tell each and every one of them in that you can't sit here. So the space had to act in itself, and they have to act as seating and enclosure spaces themselves. So talking about the main central plaza, all the plazas between the pathway, they sort of, these plazas become very activated spaces. And now if you start seeing the things, you start seeing the scale of the central area, you can see that the new campus, it has a very big area, and this area will be eventually used for a lot of people. Seeing some pictures of the campus, this is the central main 6 meter avenue. This is the main Sangh Hall, the Sangh Bhavan building, which is facing the central plaza. So you can see this connection to the Mataji temple. So we have maintained that access. So this access kind of becomes very important. This is the main central plaza with the water feature waiting to be installed. These are very recent pics. And we sort of thought about how these plazas can be. So we thought of activated these things with flooring patterns, and tried different things about how these plazas can break the monotonicity of very long and wide pathways. So this is the central plaza. You can see how this central space becomes some of the planting that kind of goes off with the building facade. So this is the main lawn which we are looking at. It's still to be planted. It will be in this monsoon. So you can see how these facilities start happening, because along with the handling, you also need these water drinking facilities, which were designed in a way that to accommodate 6 people at one time. So it's open from all the sides, so that you don't have to wait for your turn of water. Some other details that also happened along with it is a very boundary wall, like a palatial boundary wall with these kind of art features on columns and metal openings. Some drains for the storm water, parking progress happening. We thought of this parking as a big jungle, and your cars are parked beneath them. So it's going on. And so eventually we are now working on this temple complex. It's in progress. And just to give you an idea about the kind of people, the sort of people we are handling, this is the prasad distribution, this is the lanes that we're talking about. So we are now trying to do a mock-up of the whole thing, and because we don't know yet that if its layout is going to work or not. So we are getting that. So in the end, I want to say one thing, like as a landscape architect or as an architect or as a designer. So during the design process, we try to interact with ourselves, and we literally speak to the design and establish that need of a dialogue and a conversation with, there are different components of a design. So I just want to say that that conversation, that dialogue, that interaction is required for a good process. Thank you.
Thank you, Ankur. Thank you for the wonderful and smooth presentation. We really enjoyed that. We really enjoyed the variety of landscape projects which you have done, which surely demonstrates the field's diversity, and like ranging from the balconies to a backyard garden to the religious campus. So we also appreciate your user-oriented and site-oriented approach. So thank you once again. I hope you are ready with the question and answer session.
Yeah, please.
So without wasting time, let's go ahead with question and answer. Let me see. So we have one question, first question from Venkata Lakshmi. So she asked that, do you think the sitting of building blocks could have been more responsive to the drainage pattern of the site rather than realigning the major drainage line? I think she's talking about your resort project, I suppose.
Okay, so
third project,
yeah, the result. So I think the overall the concept of the design was to bring a formality in sort of surrounded by informality. That was the wild concept of the whole thing. So the building were deliberately planted and planned in that fashion to create like a sort of courtyard, a sort of formal garden in between. And yes, we had the stormwater challenges with that layout, but I guess the way we had rerouted it along the stormwater strategy, I think it is working, and it's not doing any harm. I hope it answers the question.
Okay, so thank you, Ankur. Architect Shishir Raval asked, it's a general question like, um he wants your views on that. That how can we convince like our clients to have lawns, to not have lawns in dry and hot areas, so and still achieve comfort and cool environment. So can you comment on that?
Yeah, to answer this thing, if I talk about the Jasol project, the fourth project, earlier we had, I mean, the design didn't had any lawn. The central area was a gravel court, and that was the idea because the lawn, obviously, we have water scarcity. uh, we had gravel court, and then it was surrounded by trees. So we have planted trees on the edges, and the central area becomes more kind of circulation space. So if I talk about convincing the client, uh, we actually told them that, we told them the water analysis, how much lawn you were talking about and how much water it is consuming. But now, since why we have converted into lawn, because they have got their own pipeline now from the Narmada Canal. So we have a good water supply. So that's why we are converted into lawn. But I always try to I always keep make aware client about the kind of water usage we are talking about for a lawn.
Yeah. Okay. So Mr. Sandeep Patil is asking, so can you elaborate on your planting specifications which you used for your Japan Garden Festival project? How you work that out and how?
Okay, the thing is, if you see the main concept, I had it in my mind what I wanted in terms of planting. Like if I just talk about one instance, the water feature, I wanted cannas to be planted along it. I wanted the amalthas tree to add color. I wanted the jacaranda thing to add color to the whole garden. But we received a list of 900 plants and 55 trees which were available in Japan. So what
Yeah.
I did was I actually compared both the things and selected them out of color and whatever is growing in that climate. So that was the planting process. So yeah, thankfully we found like 10 to 15 species which was common in between, and we tried to put that in more quantity.
Yes, this is always a challenge of like incorporating Indian species in other climates, and
Yes, yes, yes.
the planting palette reduces in that case.
Yeah.
Mr. Soumya Yogesh, sorry, I think Miss Soumya Yogesh is asking, have you taken any measures to handle the evaporative losses in your resort project or in the water bodies which you designed in the Sariska Tiger Reserve project? Have you considered
Yes.
the water losses?
Yes, so that was, if you talk about the main reservoir, that is the ambient reservoir. Apart from them, all other reservoirs only filled up during monsoon season. So the main reservoir obviously has almost 2 to 3 feet evaporation loss every year. But as to keep the hotel running, it's sort of a commercial thing that we top it up in summers, in like April, and we top it up with water, and after the evaporation loss, the monsoon fills it up again. So there is like once or twice top it requires for the pond. That needs to be done for the commercial value of the whole property.
Okay. So, Manivanan R is asking, did the planting scheme of that religious temple complex project, did you consider any cultural principles, the strategies, did the planting strategies incorporated?
The major challenge that one of the major challenge was the soil quality of the place. Uh, it is facing sandstorms, and the kind of soil we have, it's very salty. kind of soil we have, it doesn't allow trees other than neem, karanj. You can see these trees grow a lot. Rohera, then you have the juliflora. They are plenty there. So what we did was the trend. We carefully thought this about, and I discussed with the client where you really want the native species, the thing which is growing in that area to go inside the campus. And they say no. Of course, there's one thing that we want, the local, herbs and everything that we have this care and then small care herb which is have. So we want to use those in the campus. But apart from them, we apart from that, we are looking at a very a new unique campus, so that nobody should have thought about that you can plant the normal plants in these campus. So what we did was, they had a goshala nearby. They have a goshala of 800 cows, and the amount of cow dung and the manure they generate, it's a lot. So what we did, we got this black soil from somewhere, we bought it, and we mixed it up with the humongous amount of cow dung, and then we replaced the topsoil about 1 feet, 1 to 1.5 feet with that mixture. And I know it's a very tedious job, but the amount of cow dung and the soil mixture is a lot. We have seen it coming in, trolleys and trolleys of that mixture. So you can see, imagine the entire new campus, an entire planted portion of the parking area is being mixed with that thing. So we tried it a lot. We tried it in a very small area, and we saw this fountain grass, we saw madhukamini, we saw hibiscus, because every normal chandani, every normal plant, spider lily growing in that. And then we sort of replicated that thing in whole campus. So it all goes to that mixture and the cow dung mixture that we created.
Yes, Ankur, I can understand that. I actually that cow dung decays and is of no use after like few months.
Yeah,
So it has to be utilized.
It has added that kind of bulk and absorption quality that we need for in that kind of soil.
Yeah.
So, and the plants, you can see the picture, they are good. They are, I mean, it's a surprise for us also, little bit. That, the plants are doing great, and I guess they will do great after these monsoon also.
Okay. So Ankur, architect Rucha is appreciating your works and the experience which you have gained in the international projects. She's asking about your learnings and the experiences which you took from both the international projects.
Okay, so that was a very unique experience for me personally, because if you talk about the kind of thing which you're talking about is the diversity, and it gives you a chance to see what people are actually doing outside our country. I mean, we sometimes are actually focusing in our own niches. We are sitting in our own circles, and so this competition gave me, I have made friends, and now we are on very talking terms. And then I have seen their work and seen a variety of things, seen how, a person from Africa thinks his design through, and how a person from Thailand thinks his design, how a person from Kazakhstan or some other country thinks his design through. So, and the most important thing, I don't consider making the garden in Japan a big thing, but I consider, the kind of interaction what I had with the other designers in that evening and in that time, and on those 3-4 days, that is a very that is a life-changing moment for me. So that is the kind of diversity which I think gave me.
Yes, it would have been a wonderful experience. Pranati Chavan is asking, in that temple project, did you have to overcome any psychological or social setbacks from the local crowd, or the managing that local crowd, and things related to that? Did you overcome?
I just missed a little part.
Yeah, Pranati, did you overcome any psychological or social setbacks from the local crowd and the related managements?
Okay. So if I tell you the whole story, this is a very big project and it has been going on since 2013. And the major challenge for the management themselves is that when you're talking about changing the entire way this temple has been used since centuries. So I mean, you're talking about many people, generations are coming to this place, and when you're telling them, okay, suddenly you see that okay, you don't have to come from here, you have to come from there. So yes, we are talking about some psychological changes, but slowly and slowly, first, I guess we can't call it as enforcing upon them, but I think slowly people also realizing that it's a betterment for them, and they have a very sort of a systematic movement in the campus, and they start to realize that now it's very comfortable for them. So and there is a very general mentality, in that people won't understand the kind of people they are coming there. They won't understand, they are very stubborn people. It's not like that. If they are seeing development, if they are seeing that it's getting comfortable and beneficial for them, they slowly kind of change. So yes, we might have some psychological setbacks, but I guess it's bound to happen with anything if you have a change in you.
Yeah, I think you managed them nicely. So it's this question is also again related to somewhat that only, but it is more about the planting scheme. Uh, what kind of planting scheme which you specified for the temple project, which you can use for the shading, and is there any reason of using that 6 meter wide hard paved pathway? I think that was the answer of your earlier question. I think that's why you use 6 meter wide pathway. So exactly the question is what kind of planting scheme is specified for that temple project for the shading for the 6 meter wide project, 6 meter wide walkways, and I think that is the question.
The shading scheme that we are actually categorize the kind of tree what we wanted. So the phase one, I mean, we for all the important areas, the usable areas were planted by neem and karanj, which is a pongamia, and they are the only one which is the fast growing trees there. So they pick up pace fast, and when we are at a launch of the project, they will be sort of ready for shading and everything. So I guess the first step was to the first category is hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Somebody was presenting.
Yeah, so I guess the first category of the trees was that we planted it with the quick growing trees. So that 6 meter, the 6 meter main avenue is planted alternate species of neem currants with insertions of Bohemia, the Kachnar, Desi Kachnar, and Champas in between. So when we are looking at the eventual image, so it's going to be shaded also, and then it also has some kind of flowers in between.
Okay, so there is one more interesting question from architect Bobby Sujin. How do you
I can't see the video. Can you?
my video?
No, I can't see the overall thing presentation. Can you see me?
Yes, we can see you.
Okay. Move ahead, please.
Okay, so there is one interesting question from architect Bobby Sujin. How do you mentally acclimatize yourself? Because there is a variation, like you executed a project in 1 week, and there is one project in which like you took 4 years in drawing on board. So which you enjoyed the more and why?
I guess the quick one is the most enjoyable thing, but because you get it done with easily, and but like sitting on the drawing board has also its own advantages. Then you try to chew on it and you try to experience the whole process in a better way. So what I would prefer is a quick one, but yeah, I'm equally devoted to the longer one project also.
Okay. I think a few of you are seeing the blank screen. I think you can pin Ankur to view him. I think few of you are seeing the blank screen. Tintu Ranjan has a question. Is there any precaution you have taken to prevent the wild animals entering into your site? At the same time, providing the views of the surrounding landscape.
This is about Sariska, right?
Yes, about
So
this.
Sarishka, if you talk about the boundary wall, it was already planted with big trees. So what we did was we had those. We had to the mostly the visiting animals are leopards and foxes, and so we kind of enclosed the whole site with the chain link fencing. It's not, I mean, it's for security, but it doesn't hinder the view because the most of the boundaries closed with big trees. So only at the times of views, like the hills, we open that corner. Like the corner in the water pond was open. Otherwise, other than that, there's no. It's all enclosed.
But you will appreciate if the clients and the visitors they witness wild animals in the surrounding
Yeah, if you,
landscape
I mean,
drinking water into that
yeah,
dam.
yeah, there are these rocks in the northeastern corner of the site, and these rocks have those kind of puddles of water. So the client has seen leopard and foxes drinking water from that. So it's a very good sign. I mean, you can climb up the roof for that, but for security purpose, we need to
Hmm.
put something on the boundary wall.
Yes. Okay, so you got many appreciations for your work. I think for all the scales, for the international projects, and for all the bigger scales. So thank you, Ankur. And this is the end of the question answer session. Uh, and thank you everyone for joining. And I have one announcement for our next session. It would be the carbon impact of materials in landscape, which will be presented by architect Ankit Kalantri from Hyderabad. So thank you everyone. Thank you
Thank you.
Ankur. Thank you for joining. Hope to see you all in session 7. Thank you.
Thank you.